Welcome back. Last week, Steve fit the Samson post and the double thick deck beam it'll be tied to. The Samson post is essentially the strongest point on deck if Arabella ever needed a tow or a spot to tie the mooring chains to. This week, Steve will get started on the mast blocking. Now this is the spot where the main mast piece passes through the deck, so it needs to be thick and very strong. We'll get to use a new tool that's been waiting for its close-up, and an older tool just won't cooperate, but that's just the way it goes sometimes.
My mission today is to get the blocking in here for the main mast and to put in the carlins for that as well. So I've got it marked out. I've got a piece of plywood clamped here. I'm going to go in with the drill and a Forstner bit and hog out most of the material, clean it up with a router. And what I'm doing is making a lip here so I can put in a huge block of timber that will eventually cut a hole for the mast. And then there'll be another one that goes over on top of the deck and gives us a really big, thick, solid block for the mast to ride against, and gives us a really big, thick, solid block to drive wedges in around to pin the mast into place. So I'm going to fire up the drill and the router and see if we can get those carved out. So what I want to do here is just cut a rebate in. And it's kind of funny because the deck beam here is curved, so I'm taking 1.25 inches here in the middle and 1 inch on either end here. And what I'm going to do is hog that out with the Forstner bit here, which in my experience I found whenever you got to do this kind of work with the router, hogging out most of the material beforehand makes a big difference, and the Forstner bit does it real quick. If you've never used Forstner bits, one of the greatest things about them is that you can drill overlapping holes and you can drill holes that come out the side of something. Essentially, as long as half the diameter of the drill bit or more is in the wood, you're usually in pretty good shape. And if you have it in a drill press or something like that, man, you can actually just use that very edge of the bit and cut coves if you want to. They're pretty handy. So I like that a lot better than just firing up the router and hogging it out. The drill's a lot quieter, it throws a lot less dust, I feel like I have more control with it. And now to clean this up with the router should be pretty quick and easy. Oh, that's not good. I hate routers. Man, this thing is giving me fits today. I was having a hard time with the bushing here, the guide coming loose. And I finally got that situated, and for whatever reason, the bit just keeps coming loose. All right, well, I thought this was gonna be real easy to do with the router, but for the life of me, I cannot get that bit to lock down in there. It just keeps slowly walking out on me. I don't know, maybe I just am not good with routers. This has kind of been my experience with them, that they're finicky, that the bits don't always want to stay put. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. I don't know. I know people love them and they get great results with them. I am not one of those people. Well, I'm gonna go take 5, go grab a drink, and then come back, and I guess I'll mark this out and just finish it up by hand. I'll probably just do the other one by hand. I think I'm gonna mess something up if I keep trying to mess around with this stupid router. Okay, well, a little more effort than I thought it was going to be, but that is roughed out. Not going to go any farther until I get the block, until I get this side cut and the block to fit in here. And the block is going to come almost all the way down to the bottom. I'll probably leave it like an 1/8 or a 16th shy from the very bottom edge here, so it's recessed up just a little bit. So it'll come here and it'll have a notch that'll sit over into here, and then I'll put a pair of 3/8 bolts on either side of where the mast is going to be and lock all this together really well. But once I get this side cut out, I get the block cut out, I can see how it wants to fit in there, and let that be the final guide for the fit. So I'm going to get my pattern clamped up on this side and drill through with the Forstner bit, and I don't know, maybe I'll try to hog some out with the router and just maybe set it so if it walks, it can walk. I don't know. Maybe somebody needs to come teach me how to use one of those things. So I get this clamped where I want it. It is ever so slightly higher than it needs to be. So we've got a little bit of wiggle room to play with. So same deal as before, I'm gonna hog out most of it with the Forstner and maybe try my hand at the router again. I don't know, but we'll get it carved out here. All right, router. Let's try you. Just do it for me. What? Well, I cleaned the bit and I cleaned the collet. I clamped it in the vise, clamped it in there as tight as I could get it to go. So, let's see if that does it. We're doing this by hand, because that router, that bit just keeps walking. I don't know what's wrong with it. I don't know why it's doing that. That's why hand tools are great. They don't usually let you down. got that rebate cut, and now the next thing is to cut the block to fit it, and that's what this little old offcut here is for. So this is left over from, I don't know, framing stock, planking stock, I'm not really quite sure. It's a big old chunk of white oak, and it's kind of messed up, but in my world, this is an offcut. This is the remnants of the rest of the usable timber. So there's a couple knots and stuff in it, but there's a big chunk down here that looks really clear. So I'm gonna get all this stuff out of the way, and then I'll work on marking out and getting that block cut out. Since it's so small and short and too wide to go through the little thickness planer, I'm just gonna join it up and do it by hand. It won't take too long with the power planer. Now I've got a flat side, I can mark it out for real. I just marked it out before so I could make sure that I was missing the sap and see where everything would fit. With this marked out, I can cut the sides, and then since this side's flat, I can run it on the table saw or use the skill saw and cut out the rebate that we need to put in there. And then the other side we'll leave up, which is all going to get fared down at some point anyways. So I can get this cut, I can put it in, and then we'll see what we got to take out on the other side. So it can stay rounded and weird for now. It's not going to cause any problems. I think the next logical step in this progression is to bring it downstairs and run it through the big bandsaw, which, if I'm going to do that, actually, it sits pretty well bowed. Now flat's the back. That's going to cause problems. Okay, we'll do it with the skill saw. I guess I'll cut it with the circular saw. If I were to cut it with the band saw, there's a bow in the bottom, so I wouldn't get the 90 degrees on either side. So I'd have to flatten the other side, which I'm not terribly inclined to do right now. But if I run the skill saw, the circular saw, I can run it on this flat top and just keep working on that and leave the other side wild. So I think that is what I'm going to do. So the center is just out here, and I think this is, I don't know, 14, 16, 20 feet up in the tree is my guess. So this tree is probably not 100 years old, but probably more like 120 or even 140. It's a really old oak. It takes a long time for the trees to get this big. So if I slice these corners off, and I measured everything right, it should just drop right in there. So I think for this, I'm gonna bust out a new to us tool. So I'm gonna go drag it out of the garage and get it set up, and then I'll show you the new to us tool. So this is our new to us cabinet saw, and this is by far, hands down, the nicest table saw I have ever owned. So huge thank you to Joe. We got given an old Walker Turner a while back, but it didn't have a motor. And then Joe had a Walker Turner that he was looking to pass on. It did have a motor. And the nice thing about the one that we had been given earlier is it had these really awesome cast iron wings on it. There's even another wing that's not currently on it. And Joe's had kind of honestly, a little bit of a crummy aluminum table on it. So he took both table saws to his house and combined them. I know the table is off the first Walker Turner. I don't know what else is what. And then he put this fence on it. So I'm gonna take it for its maiden voyage. But this it should be really handy for the interior. Up to this point, there's not a ton that the table saw would really be advantageous for. But once we start doing cabinetry and like doing the mast blocking here, it's perfect. So let's see if we can get this set up and make some cuts. Well, that is not as productive day as I had hoped for. My goal was to get this blocking in and get the two carlins in, and it's 5 o'clock and that is not happening. Been kind of on the struggle bus today, to be honest. Just a little tired, feeling a bit run down, not super energetic, and my upper chest has been hurting the last couple days, which is freaking me out a little bit. And today, I think I finally figured out what it is, and I feel so much relieved. And it's not my lungs or anything, it's my muscles in my chest, and what it's from is doing this. I don't know how many times a day. Up and down, up and down, up and down. And when I do that, I can feel it in my chest and my sternum. So I think I should use the ladder a little more and not do that quite so much. But the block is roughly fit in here. I had to pry the beams apart a little bit to get it in, which means we're not touching totally on the bottom edge here. But those are really minor details. I just gotta attack this a little bit with the rabbit plane, a couple swipes on either side, and that should drop right in there really nicely. And this is proud right now, but that'll get fared down when the rest of the hull gets done. I'm not really gonna worry too much about it. And at some point, we're gonna cut a big hole in it for the mast to go in, and there'll be a bronze bolt on either side of it that lock it all together. So I think this is a good stopping point for today. I'm pretty beat, and when work gets real close like this, and I've got a lot of time into a piece, especially a big piece like this, it's a good time to stop and come out in the morning when I'm fresh and do the final fit, because a small error right now could end up being kind of big. And then I'll dive into the carlins, or the half beams rather, and then keep working aft. It's cool to see the deck framing coming together and see that the hatch and where the mast is going to go, and the Samson post, which the camera is currently attached to, and get kind of a feel for how all this is going to look and feel. And I wonder how many times in my lifetime I'm going to pop my head up through that hatch or run to close it when it starts raining, or who knows. Kind of fun to think about. So yeah, I'm gonna go, I think, crack a beer, have some dinner, and Arabella and you all will be waiting for me in the morning, I'm sure.
Next week, Steve will finish up the mast blocking and then moves aft, finishing up the remaining bits of the main deck structure. And with all that in place and fit, Steve and Casey will lower the diesel engine into its place. I know that's something a lot of you have been waiting for, so stay tuned and see you next week. Thanks for watching.